Genesis chapter 2, verses 10 through 14. There was a river flowing out of Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided into 4 rivers. The name of the first river is Pishon, encircling the entire land of Havilah, where there is gold. The name of the second river is Gihon, encircling the entire land of Cush. The name of the third river is Hiddekel, going to the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. Where are these rivers today? Let's start with the Pishon. Ancient historian Herodotus, he believed the Pishon was the Ganges River in India and that the Gihon was the Nile River. The source of the Ganges comes from the Harihati River off the glaciers in northern India, quite a distance from the Mesopotamian region. Possibly the reason we do not know exactly where the Pishon River is today is because of the global flood that occurred in Noah's day, which may have obliterated the geography of the earth in the area where that river flowed. The scriptures say that the Pishon River encircled the land of Havilah, a land of good gold, bdellium gum, and onyx stone. However, inasmuch as the Pishon River is no longer identifiable today, exactly identifiable, the location of the land of Havilah remains uncertain as well. The description of its resources is considered by some to be Arabian, and it is associated by some with the region in Arabia. Some say the entire Arabian Peninsula. Now, despite the fact that the global flood may have erased the geographic identifying markers of the Pishon, this does not mean that the possibility of this river or all 4 of the rivers were still in existence and known to Moses in his day, who wrote those scriptures in Genesis. Moses' reference to these lands, the land of Havilah and the land of Cush, are evidently 2 places and serve as geographic points commonly known in his day. In addition to whatever changes the flood brought, the ability of earthquakes to change the course of rivers or to wipe sections of them out must also be given consideration. What about the Gihon River? The Gihon River is recorded on the cartographic maps of East Africa and has been long identified by Ethiopia with the Blue Nile due to the fact that it encircles the former kingdom of Gojam. Also contributing to this belief is that the ancient name for Ethiopia was Cush. The source of the Blue Nile is Lake Tana, the largest lake in Ethiopia, located in Amhara region in the northwestern Ethiopian highlands. Lake Tana is fed by the Gelge Abe, the Reb, and the Gemara rivers. The Blue Nile then heads northwest into Sudan, then joins the White Nile as both tributaries join together and flows through Egypt to the Mediterranean Sea. But there is also another possibility of the land of Cush that Moses was referencing. When Moses spoke of the entire land of Cush, encircled by the river Gihon, we need to remember that Ham, the son of Noah, Ham had a son named Cush. So Ham and his family lived for a time by the Black Sea in the Armenian highlands, according to what the Most High inspired to be written down, that the ark rested on the mountains of Ararat. But was Moses perhaps referring instead to the Nubian, Ethiopic kingdom of Cush that rose to power in world history? The kingdom of Cush emerged as a dominant force beginning around 780 BCE to 350 CE and becoming Egypt's 25th dynasty. However, Moses wrote his account about the land of Cush in 1513 BCE. This was well over 700 years prior to the empire of Cush, kingdom of Cush, that rose to power and later sat on the throne of Pharaoh in Egypt during the 25th dynasty. So was Moses possibly referring to an earlier land of Cush? Also keep in mind, the borders of Africa were not the same as they are today, as there was no such term that existed in Moses' day or in Noah's day called the Middle East. Is it possible that the borders of Egypt may have extended further up towards the region of the Black Sea in Turkey? Could Africa have extended into this area that today they call the Middle East? Absolutely, it's possible. Again, the boundaries of Africa today are not the same as they were in ancient times, in the days of Moses and in the days of Noah. It is interesting that in the book, The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams, page 46, he makes this notation, quote, "All of this will call for a new kind of scholarship, a scholarship without any mission other than the discovery of truth, and one that will not tremble with fear when that truth is contrary to what one prefers to believe." Then notice the interesting comment that Chancellor Williams mentions next. He says, quote, "These are the blacks who have so puzzled Western scholars that some theorize that Asia or Europe may be the homeland of Africans after all," end quote. Yes, keep in mind that even though what we call today Asia or what we call today Europe may in fact have been Africa. In the area, in the Mount Ararat Mountains, where the ark rested, and Noah and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, lived for a time before they migrated to Shinar. And Ham had a son named Cush. A side note, the River Gihon is not to be confused with the Spring of Gihon in ancient Jerusalem in the Kidron Valley near the mountains of Judah, including Mount Moriah, Mount Zion, and the mountains of Olives. And speaking of mountains, Palestine was a mountainous land. Mount Gilboa, the Mount Carmel range, the mountains of Ephraim and Samaria, Mount Tabor, and several more. Finally, what about the rivers Hiddekel and Euphrates? In the encyclopedia Insight on the Scriptures, under the section Hiddekel, which was known in Old Persian as the Tigra, which comes the Greek name for the Tigris River, did you know that the Tigris has its source in central Armenia, the eastern part of modern Turkey? Of the Tigris head streams, the western is the more distant, rising on the southern slopes of the Anti-Taurus Mountains, about 25 kilometers or 15 miles southeast of the city of Elazig, and just a few miles from the source of the Euphrates River. It is thus evident that these two rivers could easily have had a single source before the global flood produced topographical changes in the Earth's surface. Did you catch that point? Let us repeat a key point in that paragraph. The Tigris is just a few miles from one of the sources of the Euphrates River. This being the case, it is highly probable these two rivers had a single source at one time thousands of years ago. This is the strongest evidence to date that suggests the actual location of Eden. So in conclusion, the most important point we must remember in answering the question, where was Eden, is not where the four rivers went, but rather that the four rivers all connected together as one source. This should build our faith in the truthfulness and reliability of the Bible, which is the word of the Most High Yah. So friends, if you like this video, please subscribe, like, and share our videos to help spread this knowledge about. So in the next time, friends, y'all be safe.